It was supposed to be a routine coronation. The script had been written weeks in advance, polished by writers who thought they knew exactly what the audience wanted. The air in the arena was thick with predictability. You could feel it, a kind of restless energy that comes when 20,000 people know precisely what is about to happen next. The current champion stood in the ring, microphone in hand, reciting lines that felt rehearsed, safe, and utterly forgettable. The commentators were filling dead air with standard buzzwords, their voices droning on in a comfortable, practiced rhythm. It was a perfectly acceptable segment of television. It was safe. It was boring. And then, the air shifted. It wasn't a sound at first, but a feeling. A sudden drop in atmospheric pressure that every wrestling fan knows instinctively. The champion stopped mid-sentence, distracted by a ripple of movement near the entrance ramp. The camera operators, usually so precise, wavered for a split second, unsure if they should cut away. That tiny moment of hesitation was the only warning we got. Then, the music hit. It wasn't just an entrance theme, it was a detonation. The immediate, visceral roar from the crowd wasn't just loud, it was a physical force. It was the sound of 20,000 people collectively losing their minds at the exact same second. "You've got to be kidding me!" The commentator yelled, his carefully prepared notes instantly forgotten. No one, and I mean no one, saw this coming. The carefully constructed script hadn't just been rewritten. It had been shredded, set on fire, and tossed out the window in a matter of seconds. Becky Lynch didn't just walk out there. She stormed the stage and tore the fabric of the show apart. Try to imagine the sensory overload of that precise moment. Minimalist art can't quite capture the sheer vibration of the floorboards. But picture a single stick figure standing at the top of the ramp, while thousands of others are reduced to a frantic blur of motion around them. Becky Lynch stood there, soaking it in. She didn't rush to the ring. She let the noise wash over her, a master conductor realizing the orchestra was already playing her song. Thieves. Inside the ring, the reaction was all too real. The champion's face dropped, a mix of genuine confusion and professional panic. This wasn't the planned segment. You could see the gears turning. Do I keep talking? Do I wait? Is this a shoot? The referee in the corner tapped his earpiece frantically, likely receiving a barrage of panicked instructions from the back that he couldn't possibly hear over the deafening chant that had started. Becky moved with a predatory grace. Every step toward the ring amplified the noise. It was a feedback loop of adrenaline. She wasn't just interrupting a show, she was hijacking the emotional investment of every single person in that building. When she finally slid under the bottom rope, the atmosphere was electric, almost dangerous. She didn't need a microphone yet. The way she stood, relaxed, confident, utterly in control of the chaos she created, spoke louder than any scripted promo. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore, they were participating in a mutiny. They knew, just by looking at her eyes, that whatever happened next wasn't going to be sports entertainment. It was going to be a fight. And they were desperate for her to throw the first punch, while the arena was a sea of euphoria. The area just behind the curtain, known as the gorilla position, was a vision of absolute, controlled chaos. Imagine a minimalist depiction of this. A room full of people with headsets, waving their arms, monitors flashing red. The producers, usually the calm architects of the show, were scrambling. Scripts were useless now. The carefully timed rundown of the show, planned to the second for commercial breaks, was wrecked. Cut her mic. No, keep it on. Where is security? The shouts would have been overlapping, a cacophony of conflicting orders. The man in charge, sitting in the center chair, would have just stared at the monitor, realizing that he had lost control of his own narrative. But in this business, losing control can sometimes be the best thing for ratings. There's a specific kind of tension backstage when someone goes rogue. It's a mix of fury that the plan was broken, and secret delight that something legitimate is finally happening. Becky knew this. She knew that once she crossed that curtain, they wouldn't dare stop her, not with that reaction. She held the entire production team hostage, with nothing but the crowd's adoration as her weapon. They couldn't cut to commercial, the viewers would revolt. They couldn't send security, it would start a riot. They had to just sit there, helpless, and watch her steal their show, second by agonizing second. It was a masterclass in leverage. She didn't ask for permission to change history. She just went out there and dared them to stop her. News travels fast in a wrestling locker room, but nothing travels faster than the realization that the hierarchy just changed. As Becky stood in the ring, the monitors in the dressing rooms would have been surrounded. Wrestlers who were half-dressed, taping their wrists, or casually scrolling their phones, all stopped. This is the hidden drama of wrestling, the intense professional jealousy, mixed with undeniable respect. 3. Every other performer on that card realized instantly that their match just became less important. The main event was no longer whatever was scheduled last. The main event was whatever Becky Lynch was doing right now. You could likely see the divide in reactions. The veterans, the ones who understand how rare true connection is, would be nodding, perhaps with a smirk. They know that lightning just struck. Then, there are the upandcomers, the ones who followed the rules, waiting their turn. For them, this moment is terrifying. It proves that following the rules doesn't get you to the top, breaking them at the perfect moment does. Becky was showing them a hard truth. You can be given a spot, or you can take it. The locker room air would be heavy with this realization. Alliances were silently shifting. People who were comfortable in their positions suddenly felt very insecure. Becky hadn't just disrupted one segment. She had just raised the bar for everyone else in the back, and not everyone was ready to reach that high. Eventually, the red light on the camera goes off. The show ends. The noise fades to a dull hum as the crews start disassembling the ring. This is the quietest part of the night, and often the heaviest. Picture Becky, sitting alone in a locker room, the vibrant persona of the man slowly peeling away to reveal the person underneath. The adrenaline that fueled that stage invasion doesn't last forever. When it leaves, it takes everything with it. Her hands might have been shaken slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer physical toll of channeling that much intense energy. It's exhausting to be a lightning rod. She had to carry the weight of those 20,000 screaming fans and the immense pressure of her own expectations. In that quiet room, the reality sets in. She just made a massive gamble with her career. If it had failed, if the crowd hadn't roared, she might have been finished. She'd be checking her phone, not for fan praise yet, but perhaps a text from family. A grounding wire to the real world. The contrast is stark. Minutes ago, she was a god in an arena. Now she's just a woman in an empty room, smelling of sweat and hairspray, wondering if she went too far. It's these silent moments that define the performers. The ability to sit in the quiet after the deafening noise and find yourself again before the next town. We often forget that these larger-than-life characters have to go home. They have to be partners, mothers, friends. The decision to storm the show isn't just a professional risk, it's a personal sacrifice. It means more time away, deeper intensity, more eyes on your private life. When Becky made that choice to interrupt, she was also choosing to amplify the pressure on her entire existence. Imagine the conversation when she finally gets home. How do you explain to a toddler that Mummy is a renegade hero to millions, but right now she's just too tired to play? The emotional labor of maintaining that level of intensity is immense. Her partner, also in the business, would understand, but that doesn't make it easier. They become a power couple under a microscope. 2. Every dinner out, every trip to the park, is now shadowed by the moment she created. She traded normalcy for immortality in that ring. It's a heavy trade. The fans see the glory, but they don't see the exhaustion of always having to be that character. The man persona is armor, and it's heavy. Returning to being just Becky requires taking that armor off, piece by piece, hoping that the person underneath hasn't been too bruised by the battles she picked. While Becky tried to find quiet, the rest of the world was getting louder. The moment didn't end when the broadcast did. In the modern era, this is where the real story begins. Social media didn't just react to the segment, it dissected it. Within minutes, GIFs of her entrance were trending globally. Lip readers were analyzing every off-mic word she said to the champion in the ring. Series ran wild. Was it really unscripted? Did you see the producer's face in the background? The internet became a massive detective agency, trying to find the seams in the reality she had woven. This digital wildfire is crucial to modern storytelling. It keeps the emotional high alive for days. Fans were arguing, defending, and attacking, all because of one moment. Becky didn't have to say another word. The fans were doing the promo work for her. They were building the myth. Every retweet was a brick in the monument they were building to her rebelliousness. The company couldn't control this narrative anymore. The fans had taken ownership of it. They decided that this was the greatest thing they'd seen all year, and their collective sheer will forced the company to pivot their entire creative direction. It was a democratization of the storyline, sparked by one woman's refusal to wait her turn. In the weeks that followed, the promos changed. You couldn't go back to standard recited lines after something that real. The wrestlers she confronted had to step up or get swallowed whole. We saw a change in the tone of the entire show. It became sharper, more aggressive. Becky's microphone work during this period wasn't just good for wrestling, it was compelling television. She blurred the lines constantly. She brought up real grievances, things that fans had whispered about in forums for years. She weaponized the truth. When she spoke, you didn't know if she was approved to say it, and that tension was addicting. Her opponents were forced to drop their characters slightly and defend their real-life positions. It created a fascinating layer of meta-narrative. The conflict felt genuine because, at its core, it was a battle over who truly owned the ring, the chosen ones, or the ones the fans chose. Every time she held a mic, the audience leaned in, waiting for another "you've gotta be kidding me" moment. She had trained them to expect the unexpected again. Months later, that single interruption had become the defining moment of the year. It's strange how history works in wrestling. A meticulously planned 6-month storyline can be forgotten in a week, but 30 seconds of genuine, unbridled rebellion can last forever. That night became a benchmark, too. Whenever another wrestler tried to be edgy, they were compared to Becky that night. Did it feel as real as when Becky did it? Usually, the answer was no. She had set a new standard for what a pipe bomb or an invasion should feel like in the modern era. It wasn't about breaking the fourth wall anymore. It was about ignoring that there ever was a wall to begin with. The company eventually leaned into it, of course. They put it on t-shirts, they used it in video packages. They commercialized the rebellion. But they couldn't commercialize the initial feeling. That stayed pure. It remained a touchstone for fans, a reminder of why they watch this, sometimes silly, often frustrating form of entertainment, for the rare chance to see genuine lightning strike. Here's the twist, the reflection that adds depth to it all. As time passed, we all asked, how much of it was truly a shoot? Was it a masterstroke of manipulation by the very people we thought she was fighting? Perhaps the greatest trick wasn't Becky storming the stage. Perhaps the greatest trick was making us believe she wasn't supposed to. In the end, does it matter? If a magician tells you it's a trick, you still gasp when the elephant disappears. Becky Lynch understood that wrestling isn't about what's real and what's fake, it's about what you feel. She didn't just steal the show that night. She stole our suspension of disbelief and sold it back to us at a premium. And we loved her for it. The moment was real because the emotion was real. And in a world of manufactured drama, an authentic feeling is the most disruptive force of all. She knew that we wanted to be fooled, as long as the fool was entertaining enough. And that night, she wasn't kidding anyone. She was just undeniably, perfectly, the man.